I must confess, I'm not really a barbarian player. One of the reasons I don't often play barbarians is because how restrictive their flavor seems. While the fighter is a lot more customizable and diverse, you can be a dexterity swashbuckler, a sharpshooter archer, an anime swordsman with a giant sword, a brawler, a horse riding lancer. I could go on and on. There's so many options, not to mention how you fight has no relevance to your backstory. You can be a soldier, sure, but you can also be a John Wick type former assassin who goes into the fray after the family died. Or Bilbo Baggins, who learns to just fight as he goes. Or maybe your sword is magical and does all the fighting for you, and you're just at its whim. Hexblade multi-class probably, but still, you can. There's so many ways to flavor it, and that's not just the thing. It's about flavor, and it can be whatever you want without, as long as the actual mechanics don't affect it. You can't really be these things with a barbarian because they're so tied to melee strength attack rolls. So you only get the rage bonuses with strength and reckless and improved critical. All those are melee weapon attacks. So, like, again, also the stereotypes of barbarians are so ingrained, it's hard to think outside of that. I'm not talking about just personally. Flavor-wise, too. Like, sure, Yasha from Critical Role is an interesting character, but not because of how she fights in combat. It's just personality, which you can make whatever you want. It's just a vanilla Stormbarb, from a tribe, buff, rages. Like, I know not every character has to be a crazy creative option, but some people, like, just want to play a barbarian because of these stereotypes. It feels good to feel powerful and strong, and that's fine. I'm not speaking to those people. I'm talking to people who have a grasp of the game and maybe aren't taking advantage of all the tools available to them. Like, who says a barbarian can't ride a horse or not be a buff juggernaut? Like, they're allowed to be non-caricatures. Oh, anyways, rant's over. Time for us to get into it. How can we flavor these abilities? Well, let's start. Rage, the defining feature of a barbarian. Sure, you can just get angry, but it can be a lot more than that. Maybe you're a wild magic warforged. Raging is you just malfunctioning and going haywire into kill mode. Or maybe you're a really nice person normally, but you bury down all this past trauma, and during battle, it all floods back and the crazy side comes back out. You could take this even further and have like a rage persona, which is like another person inside of you. Maybe you can literally take like a narcotic for it, like you're an addict, but it makes you go berserk. Or maybe you can even play like a smart barbarian and your rage is just like the Sherlock Holmes type thing where you use like mathematics to predict your enemy's attacks. Like, it can be so much more than just you getting angry. Now, while there isn't a ton of barbarian mechanics to cover, reckless can simply be a further extent of these advantages, but you get creative with it, pretending you're weak to give your enemies an opponent on purpose to draw them in and then slamming them hard. Or maybe you're a totem barb who can use like your eagle eyesight to see them better and like sacrifice your hearing so that the enemies can sneak up on you. There's not a ton you can do for flavor for brutal crit, but just have fun describing your crits in battle. While casters get to describe their spell flavor, melee fighters get to describe their weapon stunts, tossing their weapon in the air, jumping and grabbing it before slamming it down into the opponent. Literally just steal whatever your favorite video game awesome attack is and just make that your crit flavor. Like Link's spin attack is a great example of this. Now let's talk subclasses. Now there isn't a ton of wiggle room here, but we can still do quite a bit. Subclasses like the Beast all kind of force a particular flavor with physical traits, and at first glance it doesn't seem like there's much leeway, but we can actually fit quite a bit. Perhaps you're part lycanthrope. You're an adventurer who was cursed with beastliness after stealing a treasure. Perhaps they aren't even beastly traits at all. Like you could be a warforged who can alter themselves with upgrades to adapt to the situation. Or maybe it's not a change, just using what you already have, like it being an extension of your tabaxi by using their tail to aid them in a fight. You can even have like maybe a cursed arm or something that makes an attack on its own. Again, while it says tail, while it says claw, it doesn't have to be. You can make it like a crab claw, or you can make it like a tentacle. A lot of these are sea-based, but you can even make it like a wing, like snaps. The ancestral barb is a bit of a tricky one, because it's like, again, like totem barb, it's so like tribal, which upsets me because I want you to be able to do lots of things with it. You could do like a past life thing maybe, or it's more like a reborn rogue, where it's like those bonuses aren't necessarily it's like your ancestors are your past lives, and you sort of have like your rage is sort of them assisting you, and you take some of their skills, and eventually you sort of find harmony with all these different selves. I think that could be pretty cool. Like, again, you can still make it spirits, but it doesn't have to be like totemy. Like, you could do like a kind of like the ghost army from Lord of the Rings, like Aragorn, kind of like gathering them up and having them help you in a fight. I think something like that could be really cool. Or even like an elementalist barb that uses like the wind to kind of command and like protect allies. Like, again, these are a bit of a stretch, but there is, you can make it more than just because I think it wouldn't necessarily be appealing if I was just playing another tribal barbarian. Like, there's 3 subclasses that give me that. So there you go. Then we get totem warrior, another very tribal one. There's a lot of ways to do this. Like, an animal spirit is, you call upon the animal spirits, right? That's kind of the base one. You can be a lycanthrope who, like, literally becomes bear-like. You could, a lot of lycanthrope flavor in here, but you could even, like, maybe, like, you were once a bear and you got reincarnated. Or you lived with bears and you like learned their technique. Again, it's very, it still has a very spiritual tribal element to it. One thing you can do is make this like more ranger-esque. Like, sure, like they're just close to nature because they're there a lot, or like a druid. So, and then that would be great for like a multi-class. So that's my suggestion. This is one of the more limiting ones in terms of flavor, though. Zealot. This one's fun. Because it's so, like, vanilla, you can basically make it whatever you want. Because you just don't die as much, right? So you can be like a Raza Ghul, kind of like Lazarus Pit type fighter. Or you can be like a... maybe a warrior who is, again, like the ghost warriors who basically, have to fulfill that vow or else they can't die, right? So it's like, you just have these, you were cursed to have this endless battle, right? That you have to fulfill. You just keep, like, or even you're just a legendary warrior and you can just add the flavor, whatever you want. Like, you can be more of a fighter with this one, which is great. You can, you can be on horseback. You can, it's really just, you can just be an epic hero and flavor it from there, which is great. I mean, also you can take the zealot flavor in mind, though it's not like specific. You could be like this sort of fanatic warrior, but zealot's one of my favorites because it's a great subclass. It's got these really flavorful and fun abilities, but it's like vanilla enough you can flavor it however you want. Berserker, again, vanilla enough, you can flavor it however you want, essentially. Unfortunately, some of, like, the abilities, like the intimidating presence, are a bit restrictive. But again, like, you can flavor this however you want. It's like, oh, you're John Wick. People are scared of you. Like, you're just, again, you can just do kind of a legendary warrior type thing, where... Or like it doesn't even have to be anger. Like, you can do, it's like, oh, like your rage is you entering like this special like Zen state where you're so focused that you can't be charmed or frightened, and you're just so focused, you startle your opponents. That could be pretty cool. This especially goes well with a lot of the earlier rage stuff. Like, just apply that thing, whatever it is. Like, oh, you really just awaken all this anger you've been holding back. I'm not anger, like bloodlust, or this alternate persona comes out. It really embraces the rage mechanic, so you can really lean into that, which could be fun to make that your entire flavor. Battle Ranger, I'll just brush that because it's like in Sword Coast, which everyone forgets about. But you can make it like like this Juggernaut warrior, because it has a lot of mobility. You can just charge down and rush opponents. You could like, you're kind of a more tanky barbarian. I think that's how, like, again, you don't even have to flavor it like that. You could do like, you could say that the armor is like this vine. You can even make more tribal or druidic, where the armor is like this vine armor, and you can kind of like move along the vines. And finally, the wild magic barbarian. This one's just a blast. Maybe you tried to learn magic, like, oh, if you do whatever on the 7th night, you can become a sorcerer, but you did it like the ritual wrong, and so now the magic's just stuck inside of you, like channeling, and just has to release every once in a while. Like, even like a kind of like a polka dot man type thing, where like the energy just kind of stores up and you have to, expel it like twice a day. You can do, again, that malfunction stuff. You could, again, like your rage could be more, you can even do like a spiritual approach, where you're like shamanistic, and this is sort of your way of spell casting. Like, maybe like you wanted to be a spellcaster when you were a kid, but you had to, take up a sword, and like there can be like a runic element to it. Or, this could work for like the smart fighter, where it's like, oh, I've studied, and there's a more arcane aspect to my attacks. Again, you can make it like Feywildy, where like you're a pixie, and like this is all like chaotic stuff going on. You could be cursed. There is a ton of flavor options for this, which is why and you don't feel like a barbarian, which is nice. I love wild magic. It's great. I hope this wasn't too much of like a rant. I think that there's a lot of potential in barbarian flavor, which isn't always used. So I hope that provides some insight in ways you can play barbarian if it's just not fun for you, and maybe it's the flavor. Because there's a lot that I think flavor is it's a game about creativity. You can make it whatever you want, and it's so great about it, and so lean into that. So that's Class Flavor for Barbarians. This is Dodecadungeon, signing off.